Hello and welcome back. The next few videos that I'll be working on will be for a segmented bowl that I've been commissioned to make. And this first video will be the design process for that bowl using the software Segment Pro. So without any further ado, I'll show you the design software and the process that I've gone through to design this bowl. When you first open Segment Pro, this is the screen that you will see. And when it comes to designing a segmented bowl or vase or any other project, there are a few things that you need to take into consideration. The first thing is the species palette, which comprises the various materials that you will use to make up your segmented project. Next, you'll want to consider the overall shape or profile of the piece. And finally, you'll consider the finer details, such as the actual height, the maximum diameter, the total number of segments, the total number of rows, and if you're doing something like an urn, you might consider the volume of a vase or urn. So for designing this bowl, the first thing that we'll look at is the species palette. So by clicking on palettes at the top here, it brings up this window that lets me see some of the default palettes that are already on Segment Pro, as well as those palettes that I have created for a specific project. So this one here was for my first segmented vase that had the cherry, sapelli and Edigbo chevron feature ring. I've since then designed another vase which I haven't started on yet, but I will do at some point in the future. And I also have the palette here for the bowl that I will be making for this project, which will be a fruit bowl for Janet. But to give you an idea of how to go about doing this, when you want to start a new project, you can click here to add a new palette. You can give it a name. I'll call it test for this. And then you'll have a default, which is for the main bulk of the segmented turning. You have number 2, which is for the base disc, and then you can have a few more different species that you can select when it comes to the final design of the bowl to make it a bit more interesting. So you simply click down on the bottom and a tab opens up and you're able to cycle through a variety of species that have different colors and tones, and you can select whichever species that you want for your project, and you do that all the way along until you've filled the entire species palette. So for this bowl, we'll be using Janet Fruit as the palette. So once we know that and we have our palette made, the next thing that we can consider is the profile of the bowl. So for a simple fruit bowl, it's a simple open form that we want. Segment Pro does give you quite a considerable number of templates that you can work from, ranging from urns to native southwest forms, simple vases, open forms and closed forms. For the purpose of this bowl, just a simple open form is what I'm looking for. So I quite like the shape that this one has, so we'll select it. And once we've selected it, it will open up in this window here to give a view of that profile. So once we have our selected profile, the first thing we want to do is to come down here and cycle through the color palettes until we come to the one that we want for our vase or our bowl, which in this case is Janet Fruit. And so on that palette, the default color was sapelli, and you can see here that it's colored it mostly sapelli. Now there are a few factors that I already know I want to have in this bowl. I want the height to be around 4 inches, so I can come up at the top here, I can type in 100 and hit return, and it will immediately scale down the bowl to 100 mm maximum height. I also want it to be around 9 to 10 inches in diameter. So if I look here, I can see I have 284 mm,
I'm going to reduce that down till it says around 250. So that is the two main dimensions that we want to worry about. For the design I want to have just a simple sweeping curve all the way down to the base of the bowl. I don't want to have this pronounced foot. So I can easily remove that and make changes using these outlines here. By grabbing the dots, I can move these lines around, and you can see at this side here, when I move one of these dots, it will change the profile of the bowl. So it's a really useful tool, this, to go to the profiles list and select something close to what you want, and then you can fine tune it to exactly what it is that you're looking for. So you can have a play about with this so that it will give you more of a sweeping profile as it comes down. I want it to be a bit more open at the top as well, so I can adjust these ones and it will make it just a slightly more sweeping curve that will come all the way around this bowl. Right, once you have your form, you can start to consider the makeup of the different layers. So you can have your segment count here, which is your total segments per ring, and I like the effect that 20 segments per ring has for the marbled effect on the finished piece, and it's also an easier number to work to when it comes to cutting the angle for each segment. So once you've made a change to that, you can see here on the bowl view, you can see the change that the number of segments makes. I'll stick with 20. You can decide on the thickness of each layer, which I'm going to use 12 for this bowl, and I'm going to have the base block be 12mm to match as well. For the wall thickness, you can set it to what the desired overall thickness of the finished bowl that you want. 10mm is the default, and if you look at the bottom left hand corner, as I adjust wall width, if I make it bigger, the lap over each segment will increase, and if I make it smaller, then the lap will decrease. And so when I did my first segmented vase, I left this at 10mm, and so on this view here, it looks like you have quite a lot of extra material to play with, but in reality, when it comes to actually gluing up the rings, you can be left with not very much material at all. So for this, I'm going to allow a little extra. I'll make it 15mm, and that way I'll be safe in the knowledge that when it comes to gluing these rings up, I'll have plenty of material between each ring to hold the bowl together, and I can still turn it down to a nice even thickness of 10mm or whichever thickness you decide to go for. It's just safer in the long run to give yourself a little bit of allowance for the glue up, as when you glue everything together it could be slightly out of alignment and you could end up turning it away and it coming apart. So with all of these factors considered now, we have, I'll make that just slightly lower. The height up at the top here doesn't always match in with the actual height. It's determined by the thickness that you set per row. So when you make adjustments up here for the height, keep an eye on the actual height down here and set it more for that. I'm going to make the diameter just a little bit bigger as well. There we go. So now that we have the shape that we want, the profile from here, and the number of segments and the number of layers, we can consider now changing the species of each ring or each layer. And to do that, we can go to Storyboard up on the toolbar, and we can select Feature Ring. And this will allow us to see where we can add feature rings into the profile of the bowl. So if I return to bowl view now, then you'll get an idea, you'll see where they're going to put in feature rings. It looks a bit of a mess right now, but once we make a few changes to these figures in here, then it will start to look a lot better. So for this bowl, I want to have just 2 feature rings. In fact, I think just the feature ring itself. And I want it to be the same thickness as the default rings. So I'm going to change that to 12mm. That's this black ring here, and I can change its species. Currently it says number 10, which is ebony. I want it to be Padauk, so I'll cycle that down to 3 and it will change that to Padauk. We return to the bowl view and we can see the top row of this bowl now is Padauk, but for a feature ring its default is half of the default segment count. So if we return back to Storyboard, we can select this and we can change it from half to same as default, and that will give us 20 segments per ring, and it will be a nice uniform look all around. We also have this thinner row, or we have this row at the bottom here to contrast between the base block and the main body of the wood. Currently it's set at number 7, which is oak, and I'd like to use some maple for that, which is number 5. So I can change that to number 5, and we can see the change here in the bowl view. I would also like to make it slightly thinner. I'm going to make it half of the standard segment thickness, so I'll make it 6mm. And when we return to the bowl view, we can see now that we have our base block of walnut, a contrasting band of maple between the walnut and the sapelli, and we have a feature ring of Padauk on the top as well. So you can do really all manner of things with designing a bowl for this. I'm doing just a simple feature ring bowl for this project. You can make things a bit more interesting, and you can select a tornado bowl, and again, playing about with the different species that you have on each row and each segment, you can come up with an unlimited number of designs for a bowl that you want and the species that you have to work with. So that was just a quick run through of the process that I went through to design a bowl. Once you're happy with something that you've done, you can save the plan. So I have previously designed the bowl that I'm going to make. So I can go to plans and I can see it here. I can open that plan, and that will have saved the changes to the profile I made on the side here. And once I have that, again, I can make any changes down here with the number of segments, the thickness of the row, and all those different little adjustments. Once you're happy with the profile that you have and the design that you have, I'm going to make just a quick little changes to bring this back to what it is that I wanted. We'll leave it at 91. And I'll make that diameter just slightly less. There we go. Once you have your design and you're happy with it, and you're ready to start the making process, you can save your plan, and then you can click on Summary. Once you're happy with your design and you come to the summary page, it gives you a breakdown and a cutting list for everything that you'll need in order to make the glue up and turn the finished bowl. So I can see here that I have, for the base block, a disc of walnut. For the top row, I have an accent ring of Padauk. I have 5 rows of sapelli, and I have a contrasting row of maple between the walnut base and the sapelli. So when I take this out into my workshop, I'll be able to see that for the walnut disc, I'll need a block that is 131 mil in diameter. When it comes to the maple band, I'll need to cut a piece of maple that is 38.5 mil wide, and I'll need a strip that is 397 long. That will give me enough material to mill 20 segments, with each segment being 22.9 mil long. Once I have the 20 segments cut, they'll be cut at a 9-degree angle in order to make up the ring. As there's 20 segments, the 9 degrees for each segment is 18 degrees total on each segment, and the ring needs to total 360 degrees. It also tells me that the thickness of the strip needs to be 6 mil, and it gives me an idea of what the inner and outer diameter of that ring will be when it's glued up before turning. So with that information, it's very simple to go out and have it all here and mill everything up on the bandsaw and cut the segments and have it all glued up without the need of messing around trying to calculate everything yourself. I have done that, and it is pretty straightforward once you get the hang of it, but for the first time it's quite daunting being faced with doing all of the math to calculate the segment edge length that you need in order to have a finished ring that is the diameter that you need. So I'm going to print off that summary so that I will be able to start the milling process for this bowl, and in the not too distant future you'll be able to come back and see this finished bowl being made.
So I have now a printout of the finished design for the bowl that I'm going to make, and it's handy to have this in the workshop so that as I build the rings up, I'll see that it should hopefully look like this when I'm finished. But most importantly, I have the printout of the summary cutting list, which I'll use in the next video when I mill up the stock of wood that I have into the individual pieces and glue together into the bowl blank. So I hope you've found this an enjoyable and instructional video, and that you've had an insight into Segment Pro and the things that you can do with it to design your own segmented bowls and vases. And I'll put a link in the description to the website where you can see this software and you can purchase it if you have a desire to. There are other softwares that you can get, and you can buy them in a package, and it works out cheaper overall if you buy the full package. Converted from dollars, I think it was around 120, 140 pounds that I paid. But if you're interested in segmented work, it is well worth the money. Now there is one last thing that I wanted to mention, and that is I've been in contact with Martin Sabin-Smith, who I'm sure a lot of you will know from his own YouTube channel and also from his finishing products, Hampshire Sheen. He's approached me and offered to donate some of his products to me for the giveaway competition thing that I'll have when I reach 1,000 subscribers. And so you'll receive more information on that once I have reached the 1,000 subscriber mark and I do a giveaway video. But it's just by way of information to you that there will be some items that he has donated that will be included in that giveaway, along with one of my turnings. So I just wanted to let you know that, and I'll put a link to his website and his channel in the description below as well. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you to all of my subscribers. Please continue to like and share my channel and my videos, and help me get to that mark of 1,000 subscribers, as I am looking forward to doing a giveaway and making something that I will be able to offer as a prize to one of my subscribers. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.